Yo, what's going on, Epic 7 fam? Pat here, back to talk about the June 23rd update improvements preview. This was just dropped this morning. I honestly didn't even see it. I had to have a guildmate inform me that we were getting all of these balance changes. So again, just wanted to give you my 2 cents on what is actually going on here, what I think about all of these changes. There are a couple of them. They largely affect World Arena, the new Battle Frenzy that we're going to be getting for next season, as well as the changes to 2 equipment sets and a huge overhaul to all of the Soulweaver stats in the game. So let's get into it. So first off, let's talk about the equipment set improvements. The first change is going to be to the injury set. It is functionally the same, unless you were using it on a single target damage dealer. It now gives 12% injury when using a single attack. So basically this is to strengthen the set without making it too strong on Bellion, because she's the primary user of injury set for the most part in the current metagame. The biggest deal with this one, I think, is Alencia. I think Alencia kind of feels like she fell flat, right? After this most recent round of buffs, she just doesn't feel like she does a ton of damage, but she does have the injury on her S2, which is pretty substantial. And the fact that she always has Mind's Eye means that she's going to get a single target attack off twice in one turn, which means that you could potentially be getting quite a lot of injury off of just a standard S1 on Alencia. I would assume if you hit the max numbers here, we're looking at what, like 34% injury on her S1 S2 combo, which is pretty substantial and pretty rough. It makes her very good against characters like Crow, even somebody like Apocalypse Ravi. These are characters that usually require them to have very high health to do their jobs. So for everybody who was really upset with the changes to Alencia, look forward to this injury set buff, because I do think that to me is the place that it really is going to shine the most. I am not playing Alencia right now outside of very niche scenarios. She just, again, wasn't quite where I thought she would be. But with the injury set changes here, it's definitely worth considering. I was already playing to farm an injury set for her to test that out, but this, again, just further strengthens that. Next up is a change to the destruction set. The critical hit damage bonus is going to be 60% instead of 40%. This is going to be very good for those hard-hitting characters, those cleavers. Somebody like Edda, for example. I know normally people try and play her like 230, 240 nowadays in the higher ranges, but some of the mid-speed ranges, you might be able to get away with playing her at like 200 or 210 on like a destruction set and get that extra damage. It should just be good for certain characters in general. If you recall, I used to play Little Queen Charlotte on Destruction set at one point. So it's definitely something for slower damage dealers that are looking to hit harder. Also could be pretty good for a lot of like hunt farmers, for example. They are primarily people that really reap the benefits of Destruction set when you're not really looking for Rage set. So this is a fine change. I don't think it's really going to impact PvP way too much, but again, farming seems pretty good, or slower cleave style characters, it could also be good. So let's talk about World Arena Battle Frenzy adjustments now. So here are the current ones up top. You get an increase to attack, a decrease to max health, a decrease to healing, and then an increase to effectiveness. So that nothing changed with the effectiveness changes, but now the increase to attack is lessened. So you won't really get a massive boost in damage. It should make for, I guess, less swingy games. You won't have things like your A-Robbies and whatnot just like instantly annihilating people in higher frenzies, or like Hua-Young literally just like S1ing and exploding a tank in high frenzy if it somehow has gotten that far. So this is a good change. It kind of slows the game down a little bit in a sense that you're just not getting, again, as much increase in attack right off the bat. So I like that. I also like the fact that they have lowered the decreased max health. Makes the game, again, we're trying to shift the game, it feels like, away from the really aggressive play styles right now, especially the aggressive Soulweaver meta, and that's what the changes that we're going to talk about next are for. So I really like that. And this new effect here, instead of the 15 speed to Soulweavers that we're going to be getting, we now have a decreased barrier percentage, which is going to be super huge, because if you've played any amount of DN at all this season, a lot of games can be won by just having like a hand guy and a DN, or like a Conqueror Lilius and a DN, and just taking so many extra actions compared to your opponent, and they can just never break through the barriers. You just always have barriers. You're just always cycling turns, and it just makes it so that it's very difficult. I have won games in the past couple of days on my grind through Emperor, where I've literally just had Conqueror Lilius, DJ Basar, and Dien, and no one else, and my opponent literally cannot kill me because I just have too much sustain, too many barriers, too many anti-crits, and I will just eventually just grind the game out and win in like Frenzy 8 or Frenzy 9, and there's nothing they can do about it. And that's insane. That should never really happen. I don't really have a carry at that point. But these decreased barriers will help mitigate that. I think they recognize that DN is pretty much a problem at this point. So yeah, there's also this here. Final speed of Soulweaver increased by 15. Final speed increase changed to 7. So yeah, the advantageous element is the same. And then we have the final speed of Soulweaver is now from 15 to 7. So it's going to be obviously less, but we're still going to have some pretty fast Soulweavers, just not as fast. And that's because we're changing some of the base stats. They've kind of acknowledged that Soulweavers are essentially the class with the worst stats in Epic 7. If you've watched a lot of my how to play videos on Soulweavers, you'll know that I say all the time that Soulweavers just have terrible stats in general. So I'm very glad to see that they're adjusting them, and it's not just for like the ones that are good in PvP. It's pretty much everyone across the board. It really makes Soulweavers more in line with other classes. They just have better stats now, and I think that makes them more viable. And even in PvE, you'll see tankier Soulweavers overall, faster Soulweavers overall, and I really do like this change. It's not going to be as dramatic, I think, as what we have now, because even with the final speed increase changed to 7 for the Battle Frenzy as opposed to 15, the characters that are already very fast, like your DNs and your Amelias, didn't get too many actual increases to speed. So let's take a look now and look at each of them. They give you all of the characters and their changes to their stats. So the first up is a Taurus Soulweaver. They got about 400 HP added as well as 7 speed. This only really affects Ray and Sinful Angelica. You'll notice that 4 stars and 3 stars in these charts are getting lesser. They get like 2 to 3 less than their 5-star counterparts. So now Ray actually has good HP as opposed to garbage. Like, I guess 4,800 isn't really good, right? But it puts it more in line with mages as opposed to being like one of the worst in the entire game, especially for somebody who's supposed to heal scaling off of health. His speed is very fast, which is very good because right now the only thing he has going for him is that he's kind of a fast cleanser. He's really still outclassed by Dilibet, Hand Guy, and the like DJ Basar, all of those other cleansers. They probably still outclass him, but at this point Ray is in a good spot as far as stats go. He just is going to end up needing a rework or some kind of buffs to his kit, but this is a good first start. The more interesting one of the Tauruses here is going to be Sinful Angelica. People already build this character blazing fast, so having a faster one will be nice. Obviously, it's not going to be as fast as you can currently build it because it doesn't have the Soulweaver, bonus speed, and World Arena, but this is still a pretty good change. If you built a Sinful Angelica for any PvE style content, think of Hall of Trials. The extra bonus health is nice here as well. Next up is Gemini Soulweaver. This is the one that is pretty much dominating the game right now, and that is because it is Dien and Amelia, as well as Elena. So now the base speed is up to 105, but you don't have that plus 15 Soulweaver, so you only have 7. So realistically, like, your Dien's are still going to be really, really fast, right? But they're not going to be taking turns off of like Conqueror Lilius now. They're not going to be outspeeding some of these, like, you know, lesser geared characters. Like, you're not going to see Dien like outspeed Green Sid, for example, like I have at some points. But they'll still be very, very fast. They just will have to win the game a little bit quicker because, again, of the barrier changes overall. Nice that they gave us extra effect resistance as well, because one of the big things that people struggle with when building a character like Amelia, if you're trying to go for a cleanser, is getting the effect resistance. It's a little bit hard for, I feel like, some people to get it over certain thresholds like 150 or 200, so I'm really happy to see this as well. 4 stars that were changed were Akades and Lots for the most part. The Lots change is kind of nice if you use them in Expeditions or Abyss. Then we have Cancer Soulweaver. This is, I think, the coolest one overall, the one that's probably the best overall for the game, and that is because it is Destina. Destina gets 11 more speed, so she's not terribly slow now. Destina is already pretty solid, to begin with her changes. I know her healing is a lot lower. You really have to have her like plus 15 now for the healing potency for it to feel like it actually matters. But the character is still really rock solid as a backup cleanser, as a CR pusher, and as a reviver if you play it correctly. So I think that is a very, very good change. The change to Doris here, I think, is the next most notable one. Nobody really uses these 4 stars, but the 3-star Doris is pretty good for baiting specific characters for Guild Wars. So I do think that this change is also pretty nice. Now we have Virgo Soulweavers. This is Maid Chloe. We're going to essentially get here a little bit more HP. Not a lot. It's like about 50-ish more HP. You're going to get 40 more defense, which is pretty huge. I think that's the most substantial change that she's getting here, because one of the big things I think that differentiates Ruel from Maid Chloe is that Ruel is more reliable and harder to kill, whereas Maid Chloe is a bit easier to kind of take out because she's not as tanky as some of her other, counterparts. So I do like that change a lot. 2 extra speed doesn't really change a whole heck of a lot. You're still not really going to go any faster than like 250 something with Maid Chloe with these changes. Nothing really here as far as like Rin or Lucy. Those don't really, I think, affect anything. Rin is just basically just needs a buff or like a rework. I know people used to use her, but we're just in a state in the game where as long as like your Rands, your Conqueror Liliuses exist, I don't really think a character like Ren will be viable anytime soon. Now we have, this is probably the most interesting one to me, which is a Libra Soulweaver had the changes to their stats. They gained 11 speed. But the reason why it's interesting is because this affects no characters in the game. So unless I understand that the 3 stars and the 4 stars are kind of like derivatives. They're supposed to be derivatives of the lower end stats. So because a 5-star is 107, then a 4-star is supposed to probably be like 105, and a 3-star is supposed to be 103, which is how you arrive at Aether here with the 3 stars. So I think that's why they do it that way, is because they're supposed to kind of all be like similar stat pools, and they drop it down. But there currently are no 5-star Libra Soulweavers, so this could be a stat line that they are thinking about releasing very soon. Maybe like with an ML Vivian, for example, if she was a Soulweaver, maybe she is a Libra and this is actually her stat line. So we'll see how that plays out. It's more likely, like I said, the derivative, like this is the 5-star, the 4-star is basically like, a small step down from that, and then the 3-star is a small step down from that. Now we have Sagittarius is also getting a change, with an exception to the 3-star hero Requiem Roar, which is a character that is very heavily requested to get a specialty change, so that might be the reason why. So this stat line here is getting a little bit more attack, a little bit more speed, and they're getting more effectiveness. This is going to affect Tamarin and Desert Jewel Bazaar. I think the biggest change here is the effectiveness, because obviously Desert Jewel Bazaar has a stun, but a lot of people build Tamarin with effectiveness for things like Abyss. So this just helps smooth over gearing for a lot of players who just don't have a ton of really good gear. Very good change overall here. 3 speed, not really going to break the bank on this character, much like how the 2 to 3 extra speed on Diana and Amelia is not really going to break the bank. Again, effectiveness, I think, is the biggest change here. Blaze Dingo, getting a little bit more attack is really good. This character is still terrifying to me, but he's not super easy to set up, but this character still is just really good, I feel like, when he finally does what he's supposed to do. Requiem Roar, a couple of changes. She apparently, I guess, did not get the speed increase, but she got everything else. Aquarius Soulweavers. This one is 9 extra speed, and then 9 defense here, like 30-ish extra attack, and about 100 extra. 30-ish extra health and like 100 extra attack. So huge change to the attack stat here. Again, there are no 5-star Aquarius Soulweavers, and again, I think this is more indicative of it being a step down for each one, because you can see that these all same stats were changed. They're just lesser for the affected character, which is Hazel. So it's interesting to see what the character's stat lines will be for this Zodiac symbol if we ever end up getting them. I don't know if it's, again, a teaser, but that's still pretty cool to see. And then my favorite Soulweaver stat line, Pisces, also had a change. This is Ruel of Light and Blood Moon Haste, as well as Rowana. they're getting even more defense. They have over 800 now. They get 4 more defense. I think this solidifies them for sure as the highest defense characters in the entire game. And they're also breaking 100 speed by gaining 4 extra speed. And the other thing that's really nice here is the extra effect resistance, because Ruel of Light and Rowana are commonly built with effect resistance. So having a little bit here or there, a little bit extra, is super, super nice. I know that this is super exciting for me because my Ruel is like just barely under 200 effect resistance on Revenge. So getting the extra 12% means I'm going to be around like 210 effect resistance. And the extra defense is pretty good as well. This will probably shoot me up to like 1900 or so for the most part. So yeah, overall, really good set of changes for these Soulweavers. I really like this. These are the kind of adjustments that I really want to see in the game. I would like to see certain other symbols, constellations like Conqueror Lilius, for example. I'd like to see the reverse, where they redistribute the stats to take away speed. That would make things a lot better without actually like destroying the character's kit and playstyle. That's the thing I think that Smilegate and Super Creative are worried about with nerfs. I think if you just change the base parameters on certain heroes, like for example, if Ran was not a 129 base speed hero, I don't think anybody would really complain. Same thing, Conqueror Lilius, she wasn't 121 base speed, probably wouldn't be as oppressive as she is. So yeah, that's pretty much it. My 2 cents on everything. As always, enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your week, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Bye-bye now.